I want to welcome everybody to the first ever Ground Hire podcast. And for this first initial episode, I thought it'd be best that we have the founder, Norman Katayama, who is the founder of Ground Hire. He's the man, the myth, the legend who has impacted lives across the incredible history, the 19-year history,
19 years.
Of the Ground Hire. So I thought it fitting we have Norman for this first episode. I'm going to be asking questions about, what makes Ground Hire the Ground Hire, what makes it different. Let's talk about some of the stories and about the people who have come through this incredible organization, and even some history, the chronological history of the Ground Hire. So how about we start there? Let's start from the beginning. So share with me how it started over the 19 years and then bringing it to today.
Well, it all started with a phone call that I received back in August of a good friend of mine. He's the dean at the Azusa Pacific, and he said, "Oh, the Lord placed you on my heart." So I said, "Well, what did the Lord say?" He goes, "Nothing." I said, "Oh, okay." So we chatted a little bit, and that was in August. November, during my prayer time, I felt like the Lord say, pray for Jim. And then I thought, okay. And I took a shower, and while I was taking a shower, I heard it again. Pray for Jim. I said, oh, okay. Then when I got out, I told my wife, and I said, honey, strangest thing, twice this morning, my devotions and during the shower, the Lord said, pray for Jim. What do you think I should do? Pray for Jim.
Right? Yeah.
So I gave him a call, and I said, the Lord placed you on my heart. He says, well, what did the Lord say? I said, well, he didn't say anything. I just was supposed to pray for you. But anyway, we decided maybe the Lord's wanting us to get together. So he said, can you come here, fly out to L.A.? And that was a Thursday, I remember. And I said, well, I can probably fly out tomorrow. So Friday I flew out, met me at the airport, took me in his home in Pasadena. And we had dinner with his family, and then we went to sleep. Next morning, 6 o'clock, we prayed from about 6 to 9. And after he finished, put on a pot of coffee, and while we were just sitting there, he asked me, did you get anything? And I said, I didn't get anything. I said, how about you? And Jim told me, well, something about C12. I said, what's that? Some kind of explosive? And he said, well, let's take a look. So he put out his laptop, searched C12, and then he goes, I remember when I was at the university in Virginia, a guy came to me and said, I run a Christian organization that mentors business owners, and they spend 6 hours once a month, and is there any way with the curriculum that we're taking, we're using the Harvard Business Review curriculum, could they count that as credits to receive a master's degree? Well, long story short, they did. And out of that, the members that he had received, many of them got their master's degree in business.
Yeah.
So he called the founder, his name is Buck Jacobs, and long story short, again, he called me, told him I was interested, and in January, I flew out to California where there was a meeting that I attended, and that was a C12 group meeting, and that was the first time I experienced that. And when I was sitting there, I realized, I felt like the Holy Spirit tell me, this is what I want you to do. And I said, okay. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So
what year was that? When?
This was now 2006.
Okay.
So this is January when I first experienced it. In February, I went to Atlanta to get trained. And once I got back, then I was an official C12 chairman.
Okay.
And that's kind of like how it started.
Yeah.
That's
So the spark
ago.
was starting this organization as C12.
Yeah. And
Okay.
C12 is a Christian franchise organization that recruits business owners to be a part of the roundtable group setting. And there's a number of things that they do to help these business owners. And the business owners that they would attract, all minimum $1 million annual revenue, all the way up to $500 million.
Wow.
And there was somebody actually that, while I was there, they are now a $1 trillion organization.
Wow.
Yeah, trading on the NASDAQ.
Wow.
Yeah, so he does that, and
Okay.
he's on the board of directors for
Yeah.
C12.
So can you share a little bit more? The prerequisites to join in the group was.
Back then, the prerequisite is your business has to do at least $1 million
Uh-huh.
in annual revenue and have at least 2 or 3 full-time employees.
Okay.
So that's what we did, and
Yeah.
I had my first luncheon where I invited some men that I called and said, "Hey,
Mhm.
would you be interested in a group like this?"
Right.
They came to the luncheon, and they signed up. So I had 10 members in April, and then we had our first group in June. And then we started another luncheon in June and had 10 members sign up, and that was in July. So by the time July came around, I had 2 C12 groups with 20 members. By the end of that year in 2006, I had 2 C12 groups with 12 in each group.
Wow.
And
Okay.
eventually the number in those groups went to 15. And ultimately, while I was there, we had as many as 4 C12 groups, and we had as many as 50 members at that time.
Wow. So speak to that a little bit. You guys started out, you started the organization in 2006, right? And then we're in 2025 now. What are one or two key milestones from then until now that you can think of that were, let's say, the peak of the ground hire, or something for you that really sticks out?
Well, I mean, there's so much. Yeah. But I would think that, every business owner wants to grow their business. And I can say that has been, in fact, what every member that's been a part of what we did from C12. And of course, we're not C12 today,
Yeah,
right?
right.
C12 to Summit Trek, Higher Ground, and then now we're Ground Higher.
Right.
But each of the business owners, all of them can boast that they've doubled their business, some quadrupled,
Wow.
some from $1 million and all the way up to $100 million here in Hawaii,
Right.
if you can imagine.
Wow.
And so those are milestones, I think, on the business side. And that's the tip of the arrow for what we do.
Okay.
We are there to help business owners to grow their business. But I think the broader part, because the tip of the arrow it's the point, yeah? But the base of it, what is the strength of what we do, happens to be family values, has to be with the spiritual aspect,
Yeah.
because that's probably one of the weaknesses of a lot of the business owners. Are so busy in building their business, running the business, that if they have time to go to church on Sunday, that's great, but that's about it, and many of them are not growing in their spiritual walk. One thing that we really emphasize in our meetings is that of the spiritual aspect, and that's another thing that I feel very good about, that all of our members are a lot more stable. They're founded.
Yeah.
They know the Lord. They love the Lord. And now what they want to do is, what can I do to serve you, Lord, with the business that you have allowed me to steward?
Right.
And that is another word that was taught to us in C12.
Right.
That business owners are not running their business.
Right.
They're actually running God's business by stewarding
Yeah.
His business.
Yeah.
So the milestones, business is growing, families are intact, children love their dad, and there's relationship there. Health is another important thing. You can't run your business if you're sick.
Yeah.
So we make
Right.
sure that,
Right.
I make sure during my one-on-ones that they're constantly on an exercise regimen, they're eating well, their diet is well.
Yeah.
And again, where do they get that kind of accountability?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know their wives are telling them this, but do they listen to their wives?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I make sure that they're well-rounded in all aspects.
So it sounds like the members who join the organization, who join Ground Hire, they're coming in because they want to grow their business. But that's really just the point. And so the other pillars holding that up would be, you talked on faith, you talked on health, you talked on family. So what would you say are those like the 3 core things that kind of fuel that?
I would think that's the priority of a Christian life. God first, family second, I say health third, and then your business.
Yeah.
And anything else after that, if you have time for it.
Right.
And if you're a business owner, you probably wouldn't have time for anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so all of the members coming in, they're coming in to grow their business, but really it sounds like it's for life transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not just within their business. Of course, they're going to grow, but their family is affected, their faith, yeah, and you're hitting on health as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good that you brought out transformation, because that has been one of the key core values of why we do what we do. And because I see these men and women on a regular basis, I don't see that transformation. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like when you're raising your child, you don't realize that when, like when I saw Malia yesterday,
Yeah.
2.5 years old,
Right.
where you don't realize from a baby, she's
Yeah.
grown to where she is, right?
Right, yeah.
And then when she becomes 5 or 6, you're not going to realize that because
Yeah.
you see her every day. Well, that's
Right.
how it is with me. Where I hear that from are the wives.
Uh-huh.
Their wives are the ones that talk to me and said, my husband has
Right.
changed
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's where I hear more about that transformation. I mean, and also
Right.
their children.
Right.
The dad is so different now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So maybe that's a story I'd love to hear more on. So we're talking about faith, family, and business. Maybe share a story about one of those things. Like, has there been any member that really sticks out where their faith or their spiritual walk transformation has been so significant, or someone's family, or even a business story as well?
Wow. I mean, so much is going through my mind as you're talking. I don't know which one I should share. I mean,
Yeah.
there are two gentlemen inside the studio. I can pick on them.
Okay.
I've
Yeah.
seen so much transformation,
Yeah.
and maybe I should, since they're here.
Yeah.
Later they can defend themselves. But I know that one gentleman, Rendell, he just mentioned how he was so caught up in the business,
Right.
where
Right.
it really just took over everything that he was doing. And it was actually his wife that was more concerned. It's not that he was not doing well. Actually, it's opposite. He was doing so well, and it was consuming him, that the wife really had a genuine fear of what was happening to him.
Right.
And it was about that time when he heard about C12, and that's when he joined. So this gentleman, Rendell, he has been in the group now probably 17, 18 years out of the
Wow.
19
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
And again, I can't see the transformation because I do one-on-ones with him
Right.
every month, right?
Yeah, you've been
and I
walking
see
with
him.
him.
Yeah, I see him
Yeah.
every. But again, it's the wives would be the ones to say they have seen the significant change and totally a different person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What about a story for business? Like you made mention of somebody going from 1 million to 100, or even
Okay.
somebody with $1 trillion business.
Yeah.
What's one story that really speaks to you that you think of?
Yeah, well, the $1 trillion business, I don't want to mention his name, but he's on the board of directors for C12. But he was divorced, ended up having 4 boys under his care, a single parent.
Wow.
They were teenagers. Married another godly woman. She also had 4 children, 4 boys.
Yeah.
So 8 boys.
Yeah.
And
It's quite the merger and acquisition, huh?
oh yeah, literally. I mean, he does that in business, and
Right.
now he has it in his family.
Yeah.
And he's able to go to every single game, whether it was football, soccer, basketball. I mean,
Wow.
this guy is a $1 trillion business traded on the NASDAQ.
Yeah.
He's amazing,
Okay.
But anyway, for us, I would say for the gentleman, I think what it is the content that we deliver in our once a month roundtable meeting. And one of the things that we really keyed on was, like your computer needs an operating system. Whether it's Apple has its own OS
Right.
series, and then you got Microsoft.
Right.
Well, businesses also need an operating system. So we started on a trek of discovering what are the business operating systems. So we went from eMyth, which was one
Yeah.
of the first ones that came out in the
Right.
early 70s. And then Jack Stack, who wrote the book, The Great Game of Business. If you follow that is an operating system of how you can create a business that follows what he did. Now, he became an ESOP, an employee owned ESOP,
Yeah.
employee stock option.
Yeah.
He did that and was very successful. And then there are two that were more current that we got into called scaling up and also traction, or
Right.
the EOS,
Yeah.
the entrepreneurial operating system.
Yeah.
And we started teaching on these, the fundamental principles of these operating systems, along with the different tools that they operated. And let me tell you, by sharing these tools and these concepts to our members, that all of a sudden, across the board, their businesses began to change. All of a sudden, they understood why they need to have weekly meetings with the management, why they need to have scorecards, why metrics were important. I mean, all these words that you would read about, they
Right.
hear about, but didn't really have a clue what it meant.
Right.
Now they understood. They started to connect the dots. And as they connected the dots, well, guess what? Their businesses started to grow. Well, that's what happened to this one gentleman that was part of our group from
Yeah.
the days of C12, struggled year after year,
Yeah.
could not even make the $1 million threshold.
Wow.
Okay, so about, I think it was now, is it 6 years ago, where he finally did. He was celebrating, we did it. We have a $1 million revenue.
Yeah.
And then the following year, because he continued to implement these systems, he was a $14 million business. And then
Okay.
the following year, he was a $40 million business. And then after that, that's history. I didn't
Yeah.
even ask him how much he sold the business, but
Right.
some people that saw what was happening were very interested in buying his business. And that's
Yeah.
what happened. He sold his business, and and he's still part of Ground Hire.
Wow.
Yeah, I still do
Yeah.
my one-on-ones with him every
Yeah.
month. And,
Yeah. So
but that
he's-
was an extraordinary growth.
Uh-huh.
And he will say that it was because of the operating system that he incorporated. He
Right.
never did that before.
Right.
And when he did, things began to change
Right.
for him.
And so paint the picture a little bit. So when somebody joins the Ground Hire, right, it sounds like they're getting different tools and resources, connections, and community. What does that look like on a regular basis? Like, are you meeting with them one time a week, one time a month, one time a year? How does that look?
So if you become a member, there are three things that you're going to enjoy as a benefit. The first is what we call the monthly owners meeting. And we meet at the Prince Waikiki Hotel. We have a special room, private room, and we have like a round table type of discussion. Now, when I was in C12, those meetings lasted from 9 to 4. It was 6 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, if anybody in Hawaii heard that we had a meeting that goes 6 hours, they probably wouldn't want to be a part. Why?
Yeah.
They're too busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't give 6 hours.
Right.
Well, with one exception, we did have one member that really looked forward to those 6, because the way that I was pitching it was I would say that think of it as a sabbatical. You know, do you take a sabbatical once a week?
Right.
And a lot of them, they shake their heads, no. And I say, you
Yeah.
know, the Bible commands you to, honor the Sabbath.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so I would use that a lot, and I would say, think of this as a 1 day a month sabbatical, and where you're spending time with other business owners. So they did, but now we're just 3 hours. We go from 9 to 12 with lunch to follow. So if you
Yeah.
want to stay for lunch, you can. And
Yeah.
most of them do.
Okay.
But if you had to leave after 3 hours, it's 9 to 12. So that's our once a month roundtable meeting
Okay.
called the monthly owners meeting.
Okay.
The second one is the one-on-one, which a trained coach would do with each individual once a month. So that is what I do with my members. I meet
Great.
with them once a month.
Yeah.
And then the third benefit is what we call the annual business presentation, which was known before as the core presentation.
Okay.
And what this is all about is like having a business plan that you present every year to a group of people around the table, where you share 3 various issues that you're having in your business, issues that you're having a hard time overcoming. These are issues that you really don't know what to do. And so we ask you to, a paragraph or two, describe the issue that you're facing, and out of that issue, ask one question to the group. And what the group
Right.
will do is they'll weigh in on that question, and they'll begin to give godly advice and wisdom and counsel. And let me tell you, some of the wisdom that they receive out of that, it's been a game changer. It's changed the business.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example. This is not from one of our members, but this is out of a core presentation that I visited in Florida. There was a gentleman there that had a storage company. Okay, this is in Florida. You know those storage companies where you rent out a room, get it your own lock, you put all your stuff in there, lock it up, and you go. Well, anyway, he was giving his core, and he was saying, I have a really good business, hand over fist. I'm making money every month, like cha-ching. All I do is I charge their Visa cards, and I'm doing really well. Well, this couple that were chiropractors, they said, yeah, and his name's not Joe, but I'll just say Joe. Says, Joe, the Japanese are coming in. Now, this is about 30 years ago now, okay? No, 20 years ago. And he says, the Japanese are coming and buying all this land here in Florida. I think you're going to have a lot of competition. I said, I'm not worried. Well, anyway, what happened was in the next core presentation, he said, I'm worried. My issue is I've been doing this business now for all these years, had no competition. Now several of these storage units are coming up. What should I do? Okay, so the same couple that told him what to expect said, we rent from you, and we pay every month to you. But the problem is we don't own a truck. We both have cars. We don't have trucks. So we have to borrow a neighbor's truck, load our stuff in, drive it to your storage facilities, then we got to unload it, and then before we return the truck back to our friends, we got to put gas in and all that. So it's costing us, and by then we're all sweaty, and and then we heard that this competition, this other storage company right next to you, it's air conditioned. So Joe, we're thinking about switching over to them. Okay?
Yeah.
So he goes, what should I do? And then this is what the wife said. The wife said, you know what? If you made it easier for people like us, maybe we'll stay. And he said, well, what? Like what? He says, well, if you can just, I don't know, somehow drive up to our house, pick up whatever we need in the storage, and you take it and you store it, that would be great. Well, guess what? Joe thought about it, and he says, I can do that. And that was where the pods system.
Wow.
Portable on-site delivery.
Yeah, it's a huge company.
He started it, he owns it, and he sells franchises to every state.
Wow.
We have one in Hawaii.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's from him.
You see them all over.
Yeah, it's from Joe.
Right.
That came out of a core presentation. So it's amazing what happens when you have a group of Christian business owners that are weighing on an issue or a problem or something that they're having a hard time with. While it's going on, they're praying and asking God for wisdom, and you'll be surprised the kind of things that come out.
Yeah.
And I have heard some of the craziest things come out, but yet when the person hearing it heard it, it meant something, and then they just kind of tweaked it a little bit, and out came some solutions. And it's changed businesses here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the third benefit that we offer, and we give opportunity for every member to do a core presentation every year, and some do it every other year because it takes them more than a year to implement and work things out.
Yeah.
But that benefit is available to every member.
Right.
And that's worth, I think, its weight in gold.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine as business owners, who do you answer to? There's nobody above you. And so to be in a community of other business owners and to present, your profit and loss statements, present what are some of the big issues that you're going through, and then to have feedback from them in real time. And then, I imagine it's a pretty diverse group from different industries, being able to get solutions like that, like what Joe got.
Yeah, and
right?
that happens in the monthly owners meeting. That's why we call that group the executive board. So it's an executive board of business owners. And what we do is there are times that we actually bring out an issue. If I know of one, I'll bring it up and allow the other members around the table to give input. And I still remember one. This was probably right in the beginning, and this one brother was having some issues with the wife retiring from being a teacher, and there was another gentleman who was in the group at the time, and he had the same issue, and he just told them, he said, "Brother, let your wife retire, because if you don't, it's not going to be good at home." And so he didn't want to, but because the reason why he didn't want his wife to retire is because he wanted the wife to continue having medical,
Right.
okay,
Yep.
at the school, DOE, right?
Uh-huh.
And he didn't want to pay for her medical. So keep working, honey. I want you to keep working.
Yeah.
But she was very frustrated. But when he received that counsel, he went back home, and he came back the next month. He said, "Oh, my wife loves me now."
Wow.
and the relationship has just went to another level.
Yeah.
All because he allowed her to retire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
that happens
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
monthly.
So
in our
that
meetings.
community is such a value add and a benefit to be a part
Very much so.
with other business owners who are faith-based, they love the Lord, and they're all in the same situation of needing to grow their business, wanting to grow their business, but not sacrifice their family, not
Correct.
sacrifice their faith and their values
Correct.
in order to achieve that success. Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would I had this question for you. What would you say as somebody who doesn't know anything about the Ground Hire, right? What would you say is the vision? What is the mission of Ground Hire that is overarching over all of this?
It's changed as we've progressed. For example, in C12, the vision of C12 was to build a great business for a greater purpose. To build a great business for a greater purpose. And I used to love that because I think that's what every Christian business owner desires to do. And so we held on to that for a number of years, and it's changed throughout. Now our mission statement is to provide an international platform to allow Ground Hire to disciple the nations through business owners. So we feel that the Great Commission is not a what's that word? It's not a suggestion. Yeah. It's really a command.
Right.
The commission is a command, and that goes not just for all believers. I think it's more so for business owners.
Right.
And that might be something that many business owners have kind of put as a secondary option to do. We at Ground Hire feel that the Great Commission is right there, just equal to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I think we have to. That's our responsibility. And what a great avenue that you have. What a great platform when you have a company of people that are probably, some are Christians, they're saved, and probably another group they're not. And now you have a captive audience that you're able to present the gospel. I know they say the HR tells you it's illegal, but there's a lot of things you can do, by the way. I mean, just being an example of a Christian, that's not illegal.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we do encourage our members always.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what it was like back in 2006, but in this day and age, there are so many groups very similar to this one, in a sense where, groups promise you that you're going to grow your business, you're going to 10x, you're going to get this, and this. What would you say makes Ground Hire different to the other organizations like this?
I suppose the one that's most qualified to answer that would be each of the members. Why have they stayed these past 19 years? Many of them, most of my members are more than 10 years they've been with me. The one that just came recently has been over 10 years now. And so I would say, 80% of my members have been part of Ground Hire for over 15 years. I think that says a lot because there's a lot of turnover in a lot of the groups that you're mentioning. After a while, the newness runs out. But there's something about, I think, what we do that the newness never runs out. Again, you can ask the members, and you have two men sitting right here in the audience. That might be a good question to ask them. Why are you still a part of this?
Right.
I mean, there is a reason. It's not because of my good looks, that's for sure. But they're there because there's value there that other organizations are not able to provide.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a tremendous value that Ground Hire has to offer people, and in this day and age, there's so much out there. There's so much content. There's so many different groups. But let's look at the data, and if the data shows that you have members that have been with you for 5, 10, 15, Rendo, you said was 17 years plus. Well, there is a reason for that. And so that's the kind of things we want to pull out and be able to share more. Before we wrap up this segment, I do want to get a little bit more about your story. So maybe in just 3 to 4 minutes, I want to know more about you, right? Because you started this in 2006. You have quite the history before that. So let's dive in a little bit more on the history of what your background is and how you came about and leading up to that place where you talked to that guy in LA, right? And then started C12.
Yeah. Okay, well, I became born again back in 1971. My father was in the military, and we were stationed in Okinawa at the time. And I got saved while I was visiting back then my girlfriend, who's now my wife. She was going to a Christian camp. And I just happened to drive up to the camp not knowing what to expect. All I heard was a lot of noise coming out of a tent. And then I thought, I'm hearing all kind of strange things, So my friend and I, we rolled up our windows so we don't hear all that. Later, we saw them breaking out, and my girlfriend at the time said, "Come, meet my pastor." I thought, oh gosh, here comes a 1-hour sermon. And sure enough, he did talk to us for 1 hour. But both my friend and I, we got saved. We received Jesus. That was April the 8th, 1971. And then from then on, my relationship with God just, I don't know how to describe it. In the first year, I read through the Bible twice. Riding on the bus, going to school. And I remember going to the library and having a small little Bible study every morning. And that group grew to over 100 by the end of the year. We had over 100 people in that library. And I was basically sharing what I read on the way, because it took me 40 minutes on the bus ride. And that's why I was able to read through the Bible twice. And then I made a dedication of my life that I was going to serve God. That God, that's all I want to do. I just want to serve you. So after I graduated from high school, I went to University of Hawaii, came here, was in 2 years in the architectural program, and it got closed down. And now I know why, because we had a guest speaker at one of our combined meetings, and he was the guy that closed down. He was the main architect. If I mention his name, you know who he is. But anyway, but that was God sent, because I was a sophomore then, just finished at 2 years, and my pastor told me to go to Bible school. It remained 2 years, so I did. Because he wanted to bring me on staff, but I had to have a ministerial license, so I went. So while I served in a church, one of 12 pastors there, and served there for 9 years. But I knew that, that wasn't what I was supposed to be called to. I knew I was to serve the Lord, but not as a pastor of a church. So after that, I left, and for the next 18 years, I started 4 out of the 6 different businesses that I was a part of, and each one was 3 years each. So when I was at the church, I served from 1979 to 1988, which is 9 years, and then 18 years, which is 3 times 6 different businesses. Everything in my life seems to go in increments of 3 years. And then the next 18 years was with Ground Higher. So now I'm actually I'm starting my new semester.
Wow.
That's why that's why I think, for those of you that don't know this, that's why you're here, because I'm going to pass the baton to you, because then I'm going to be doing something at another level. Yeah. So my life has been that way. And when I was a pastor, I remember I felt like I had a hook kind of behind in my back, and I felt like God had his hook in me. And one day as I was praying, I felt like the Lord say, "Reach behind you." And I reached behind, and I knew why he was saying that. And I said, "I don't feel the hook," right? I said, "Well, Lord, what does that mean?" He says, "Yeah, you're not hooked to being in the quotes ministry and serving in a church." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" I said, "That's up to you." I said, "Well, I want to be in the marketplace." And then the Lord said, "Fine, I will bless you." I said, "Are you sure? Do you want me to stay in the church?" He said, "Look, Norman, if you decide to stay in the church, I'll bless you. But if you want to go in the marketplace, I'll bless you. You choose." I said, "Okay, I want to be in the marketplace." And that's why I left. And that was actually during a prayer time. I was praying and fasting while I was in Bible school. That's when I knew that hook was released. Yeah. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Kind of a parachurch organization, working with churches. I mean, I'm still part of the church that I started way back when, in 1973, when I was here, when I came to Hawaii. Right. That's still my local church. I still pay my tithes there regularly every month. Yeah, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So an incredible history of back in the day leading a Bible study, of growing it to 40, 100 people, and then going into ministry, right? Helping your pastor there and really growing the church, and then going into business, right? And just feeling your calling in that place. Personally, I can relate to that because my path was leading towards being a pastor. I was a missionary in Bali, Indonesia for 5 years. But as soon as I got into business, it felt like this is where God wanted me to be. But I didn't want it to be just business. It's like it has to be ministry. So it's both one and the same. And that's the feeling I get when I'm at the Ground Hire, is that all of these guys, as you said before, they're stewarding their business, right? This is for the Lord.
Correct.
This business is for the Lord to give and take away.
Yes.
And it is your ministry. Your
Yes.
business is your ministry.
Correct.
And so I guess in wrapping this up, what would you say is one thing that you would like our audience to know about the Ground Hire?
Well, I think what I would like the audience to know about Ground Hire is if you are a business owner, because see, this group is strictly for business owners. If you happen to be a vice president or a general manager, I'm sorry. Our curriculum, everything that we focus on in our monthly owners meeting is that which goes benefits and wraps around a business owner. Now, so if you are a business owner and you're interested in a group like this, then I would want you to check it out. And the first meeting is absolutely free. Just come, contact myself or Matt, or if you know of someone that is a member, have them just bring you. You don't have to pay anything. There's no obligation. But just check it out. Feel what Matt felt. So far, everyone that's come, they've felt that uniqueness of what we have to offer. A lot of it has to do with the relationships that you begin to develop. And as you know, that's probably the most important thing that you can do, is to develop relationships while you're on this earth. And that's what we're all about. So if you are interested, please, check us out. Just come to one of our meetings and just see for yourself if this might be the right thing for you.
Yeah. Well, I guess that wraps up our session, our first podcast for the Ground Hire. As Norman said, we want to invite you guys to come check us out. Hit the subscribe button, engage with our content. This is an incredible group, and it can be for everyone, but it's not for everybody. So if this has spoken to you, if you feel like a group like this could really add value to you to help grow your business, but keep your soul not just intact, but thrive in the areas of fitness, of faith, and of course in your business, then we would love to have you join us. So thank you, Norman, founder of the Ground Hire.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you.
you, and
Thank you
to
having me.
all the crew.
Yeah.
Aloha.